Hello people, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. My video for today is Men of the Bible series, and the case study is Daniel. And it goes like this. Daniel's name means judgment of God, and Daniel was born into Judah's royal family and was likely a relative of King Zedekiah. You remember the story of King Zedekiah, whereby King Zedekiah was the king of Judah, and Prophet Jeremiah prophesied that that judgment will come upon Jerusalem, and King Nebuchadnezzar would use him like a puppet. And this came to pass when Jerusalem fell, and people were taken into captives. King Nebuchadnezzar captured him and gouged his eyes out, and he was taken to Babylon also, and he died after that. And Daniel was born into it was during King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon that he and his three friends, that is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, became captives and transported to Babylon while still children. So King Nebuchadnezzar captured them after it was during the fall of Jerusalem, and they were captured while they were still young, and they were taken to Babylon. And it is in Babylon that Daniel and his friends were made eunuchs for life. A eunuch is someone who is like a priest, a holy priest, or a man who is just a priest. And eunuchs, they don't marry; they remain single till they die. And Daniel and his three friends, I think they remained single and until they died. They never married. And Daniel received special training in the royal court of Babylon. At an early age, he and his three friends received position as wise men serving the king. He soon became known for his understanding of visions and dreams. Daniel and his three friends, the wise men, they served King Nebuchadnezzar from a tender age, and they were there when the king needed them. They were able to give counsel to the king whenever he needed their advice, and they were very successful during that time. And Daniel interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream of a large image of a man. The image represents world empires from the time of Babylon to the end time, just before Jesus' return. Daniel interpreted the king's dream when the king saw that the astrologers could not interpret the king's dream, because that dream was it needed just divine intervention, and no one was able to interpret the dream. And the dream represented the statue represented the four empires, that is Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. And the rock represented the coming of Jesus' kingdom that will take place during it will take place I think after, when Jesus returns, he will establish his kingdom. And the rock hitting the iron legs, showed that Jesus will crush the Roman Empire taking place. That is after the Antichrist has come, That means that Jesus will take over that kingdom from the Antichrist, and this dream is very prophetic. Yeah. And Daniel interpreted the king's dream of a large tree cut down. That is chapter 4. That is, the tree represented the king's life of vanity and self-promotion, and his punishment of receiving the mind of an animal for 7 years. So Daniel interpreted the dream of the tree being cut down, showing that God would take the kingdom from him, and he would be chased out, and he would become mad. He would lose sanity, and he would wander the forest like a wild animal. And he did that, and this dream was to teach Nebuchadnezzar that God is powerful. God can remove anyone from power if they do not do his will, if they do not repent of their sins. And Daniel was also given the interpretation of his own dream of 4 great beasts, that is the world ruling empires. So Daniel chapter 7, I think, is almost similar to Daniel chapter 2 in terms of the world ruling empires. Those are Babylon, Greece, Medo-Persia, and Rome. Those are the 4 world empires that represented in the dream of the 4 great beasts. And he also interpreted the handwriting on the wall, that is Mene Tekel Upasin, that prophesied the end of the Babylonian Empire, that is under King Belshazzar, and the start of the Persian Empire under King Darius. So Daniel was able to interpret the handwriting of the wall, and the handwriting of the wall was trying to tell King Belshazzar that Babylon will fall and it will be replaced by the Persian Empire. That was after Belshazzar had used the cups that were from the temple, which Nebuchadnezzar never used, and that brought anger upon God, and God used King Darius to punish King Belshazzar, and so King Belshazzar had disrespected the property of the temple of God in Jerusalem by drinking wine from the cups, which no one was to touch them, but he touched them. And Daniel was also given an interpretation of the dream that he had when he saw a ram and goat. They represented the future empires of Persia, Macedonia under Alexander the Great, and 4 smaller kingdoms created after Alexander's death, that is chapter 8. And Daniel also received the 7 weeks prophecy foretelling the birth of Jesus and his death in 30 AD. Daniel also received a prophecy concerning the end time, king of the north and the south, the Bible's longest prophecy, found in Daniel chapter 10 till chapter 12. And Daniel eventually became a chief advisor to the king, then the 3rd ruler of the entire kingdom, that is King Darius. So Darius was made Daniel to be his chief advisor after Darius discovered that Daniel was able to interpret the handwriting of the wall, and Daniel knew that King Darius would come to take over the Babylonian Empire, and so that Darius saw that he liked Daniel, and he decided to make him his chief advisor. And Daniel and his friends were not immune to persecution. That is, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into a fiery furnace for not worshipping the golden image of the king. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego told King Nebuchadnezzar that they would not bow down to the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar created. And as a result, King Nebuchadnezzar had them to be thrown into the fiery furnace, but luckily they survived that persecution when an angel came and saved them from being consumed by the fire. And Daniel also experienced persecution in that a conspiracy against him led him to be thrown into the den of lions. So the other chief advisors, the satraps, they conspired against Daniel for breaking the laws of King Darius. That is, no one was to worship King Darius. Everyone was to worship King Darius. If one was not worshipping King Darius, one would be thrown into the den of lions. So the satraps saw Daniel praying to God, and they reported to the king, and the king was so reluctant to throw him into the den of lions. And then miraculously Daniel survived the den of lions, in that the angel of the Lord came and shut the mouths of the lions, preventing them from hurting him. So the lions did not hurt Daniel, but the lions hurt the ones who conspired to throw him into the den of lions after Daniel was released from the den. And those guys were killed by the lions together with their wives and children. And hope you've learned something about the men of the Bible series, that is Daniel. If you have been blessed by this video, comment down below and have a good day.